Hey, and welcome to the highlights of episode number 201 with Kristina Karlsson. Some of my favorite parts of this episode were when she shares her epic story from growing up in Sweden, waking up at 3 a.m. not knowing what to do with her life, selling her home, and starting the biggest stationery company in the world called Kikki.K. I also loved it when she teaches us how to create our dream life and when she gives us the powerful questions we must ask ourselves before we write down our dreams. Plus, I also loved it when she shares very openly and honestly about her biggest dreams she has achieved and the ones she is yet to achieve. But there is so much more wisdom and inspiration that you get in the full episode. This one is an inspiration overload. So, to listen to the full podcast and get all the info in the show notes, head on over to melissaambrosini.com/201 right now. I'm so excited for this conversation because you are the owner and creator of one of the world's biggest stationery brands worldwide. So how did that happen? Tell us about your story and how you got to where you are today doing the work that you do now.
So I grew up in Sweden. I grew up on a farm and we didn't get to travel a lot as kids. So my dreams as a child was always to travel. And when I was 22, I met an Australian man and in Austria in a ski resort, and I moved to Melbourne. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with my life. And I was kind of whinging and complaining a bit and asking multiple times a day, what am I going to do with my life? And at 3 a.m. one morning, I woke up Paul for the 5th time saying, what am I going to do with my life? And I think he was a little bit over me asking that question. So he encouraged me he turned on the light and he encouraged me to write down what was important to me. So this was my first dreaming on paper. So I put pen to paper and I wrote down what I now call my 3 a.m. list. And on my 3 a.m. list, I had that I wanted to drive to work every single day and really loving what I was doing. I wanted to have a business on my own, but I didn't know what that was going to be. I wanted to have a connection with Sweden. So this is before, internet and, FaceTime and all that. So I was missing my family a lot. So I wanted to have a connection somehow with Sweden. I wanted to work with Swedish design. That was one of my passions. And then I wanted to make $500 a week. So that was my 3 a.m. list. And then I went back to sleep. And then in the morning, I looked at it and I looked at a few different options and what I was going to do. But then one thing that I had on my list was that I wanted to start a business. And I thought, if I'm going to start my own business, I really have to have a beautiful home office. And I wanted to have something that was really organized and inspiring so I could work out what the business was. So I went out to buy some products and there's so much available now. But back then, in my view, everything was price driven, badly designed, and it was just not something I wanted to have in my office. So I was like, this is so boring. And then I got super excited and I rushed home to Paul and I said, I know exactly what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to open beautiful Swedish design stores specializing in stationery around the world in my favorite cities. So, being Paris, London, New York, etc. And I convinced Paul to sell his house to open my first store. So opened our first store 2001 in Melbourne. And now we have over 100 stores in 5 countries, being Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UK. And we sell to over 150 countries online, which blows my mind every single day. So that's kind of how Kikki.K started.
Why is writing down our dreams and our goals so important in the manifestation process?
Well, there's a lot of research that says that putting pen to paper is similar to meditation. It creates new pathways in the brain and there is a connection to remember more your dreams if you put pen to paper. But I think the most important thing is to actually just capture your dreams, ideally on paper and pen, but just really start to thinking about it, because I think so many people around the world, which you touched on, are not doing that. And that's why I decided to write my book, because I wanted to share the tools that I use to create my dream life. And when I talk about a dream life, it's not a perfect life. I just want to really clarify that, because I think the bigger dreams you have, the more challenges you have, and the more things will come up that you have to solve. And so dream life is never a perfect life, and there is no such a thing as a perfect life, but it is something that you really, really want to do. So I think it's super important to capture them. But I also think it's really important to disconnect and reconnect to yourself and really think about that your life is pretty short. Regardless if we get to live a long life, I think life is way too short. And I know you have interviewed Bronnie Ware, who has written the 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I think that is such a powerful book to read and think about, that life is really quite short. So really taking the time to capture all your dreams and then start doing something about it and make sure you do everything you need in the short amount of time you have on this earth.
So for someone who has never taken the time to sit down and write down their dreams and their goals, where can we start? Like, let's strip it back.
Yes. So in my book, I have an exercise where there's room for 101 dreams. And it's not really about the amount of dreams. It's just like you want to have a lot of space to actually write down anything. And I always ask a few questions. And this is a really good way for your listeners to start. What would you do if you couldn't fail? If you had all the money, because sometimes I think the money often restricts us to think big about our dreams, because we often think about, can we afford it? But just forget about that. If you had all the money you needed, what would you actually do with your life? If you had all the energy, the resources, and the knowledge, what would you do? And that often gets us into a dreaming frame of mind versus that, when we set goals, we often look at ourselves and think about what are my goals for the next year or the next 12 months or the 2 years or whatever you want to do. And you push yourself and you might stretch yourself a little bit. But if you actually just remove yourself completely and you could start your dream life and you don't think about your reality, like if you couldn't fail, if you had all the money, the resources, the knowledge, the energy, and the health, what would you do with your life? And that gets us into a mood of anything is possible. And for me, for example, one of the things that I got out when I did this exercise, and I obviously do it all the time because this is what I'm living and breathing, but one was actually to start my own podcast. And, I was so inspired by your podcast because, English is my second language. I was like, nah, I'm not going to be able to do that. And it was kind of restricting me. But then I thought, if I couldn't fail, would I do the one? And I did. And, it's taken me a long time to get comfortable with it. It's a progress. But I have this thing where you don't have to be great to start, but you actually have to start to be great. And I think that's a really good message for everyone to really start thinking about, if I work out, if I'm going to live to 100 or 120, one of my dreams is to live to 120. But if you think about, okay, how many months do I have, or how many years do I have until I'm 100, or whatever you believe you're going to live until? What do you want to do in that time? And really, let's put your constraints away and really think about, what would I do if I couldn't fail? If I had all the money, the resources, knowledge, and the energy, what would I do? And that is a really good start. And I actually have created a audio guide to help people. So if anyone wants to do this exercise, it's a free audio guide on our website. It's Kikki.K/Dream Life. And there's 2 audio guides, and there's specific guidance there for anything in life. So that could be a good start for your listeners to start dreaming.
Okay, so we've got these powerhouse questions to ask ourselves. And then we sit down with our pen and paper and we write down all of our dreams and all of our goals. Now, what if you've only got like 5? What do you do then?
I don't think it's about the amount. I think it's just really about starting to dream. And I think when you start, you actually will be really inspired to continue dreaming. And, it could be small dreams, it could be big dreams. It could also be about things that you actually do not want to do. Like, sometimes we are so influenced by society or family or whatever. And sometimes it's just really about, having a day off. So it's not about dreams that, is all impossible. A lot of my dreams I can do today. Like one, I was actually posting on the Instagram that my kind of perfect day, when no such a thing as a perfect one, but if I could have an ideal day, that is about being in nature and, being alone and read books and write and think. So a lot of our dreams do not have to be big and impossible. If it's not about just big dreams. It's also about really thinking about what's important to you. But if you only have 5 dreams, that's a good start, because then you won't be as overwhelmed. When you have over 100 dreams, sometimes it's hard to choose one. But it's really about then working out, if you're going to start with 1 dreams, in my book, I have to start with 3, because I think 3 is really achievable, but depending a little bit how big they are, and you might need to break them down. But it's all about, if I want to start with 1, which one is most important to me? And sometimes you have to really think about that and and not decide it on the spot, but actually think, if I can only do one dream this year, which one would I choose? And then what I encourage everyone to do is like, okay, I have one dream. What are all the actions that I need to do? So for example, if you want to create your dream home, for example, which I know that you've just done, that's a big dream and it might seem impossible, but there's a lot of things that we can do even if you don't have the funds or the possibilities to do those things. You can actually start by maybe doing cuttings and clippings, and you could start with finding out the style of the house, or there's so many actions you can actually write down. So just write down every possible action under that dream. And then from there, you would choose your top 7 steps. If you can only do 7 things out of those all actions, which ones are they? And sometimes it's really good to think that through, because sometimes we do the easiest things and the most time-consuming things that might not move the needle. So those 7 steps are really about, if I need to only do 7 things to make this dream happen, which ones do I need to do? So it's a bit of a process around that. And then obviously we need to put them into goals and do the action, because the dreams only work if you do the work, as we all know.
Off the top of your head, what are 3 big dreams that you have set that you have accomplished already?
So one of my dreams was definitely to have a business. And I want to talk quickly about that because I had no idea about business, like zero. And I didn't have a network. I came alone with my partner. He's Australian, but I had no friends here, no network. And English was my second language. I didn't know anything about business. So that dream absolutely seemed impossible for me. So I wanted to share that just because I think a lot of us restrict ourselves because we don't think we can do it. So that was definitely a dream I achieved. Writing a book was also something that I wasn't really sure that I first wanted to do. And secondly, that I could do it, because again, English is my second language. And I wasn't really sure if I could do it and be disciplined to do it. So that was a dream that I achieved last year. And I want to share a little story about how I came up with the book. So I was living in Sweden. I took my family to live in Sweden and put the kids to Swedish school. And I traveled so much, and I came home and I was doing some creative work to present to the designers for the following week. And I came back and I was completely exhausted, and I didn't feel like I had any creative things in me. So I said to my partner, Paul, I said, hey, I'm going to take my journal and a pen, and I'm going to go away for 3 days. And he was like, are you crazy? You just got home. And I said, yeah, I just really have to do this. So I left my phone, my computer, books, which is even more scary than leaving my phone because I love reading. I went to a little resort hotel with spas. I could do yoga, meditation, and all those beautiful things to really get me in a creative mode. And I stayed there for 3 days, and I just wrote and thought, and that's when I came up with a book. And I'm sharing that story because sometimes if we don't know what we want, to have that space and that time to really think, and not everyone can go away for 3 days. I completely understand that, but maybe it's just a half day at home on your own where you disconnect from the world and really think about what's important to you. So that was the book and the business. And the other dream that I have achieved is to buy a Swedish home. So obviously I'm living in Australia, but I always wanted to be able to go back home and actually live there as a local, not spending time in a hotel or with my parents or friends. So I put that up, and I thought that was absolutely impossible. And I remember my dad, he said to me, if you're really serious about buying a house in Sweden, you should do it before the kids completely growing up, because then you can actually live in a hotel really easily. It's now that you want to do it. So I put it on my vision board and I started to look, and then my brother-in-law sent me a link and said, if you're going to buy something, this is it. And then we were doing a little transaction at the time, so I could take out a little deposit, and that dream came true as well. So those are the 3 dreams that are really, really meaningful and really something that have meant so much about me creating my dream life. So those are the 3 ones, but I have so many more that I want to achieve. I want to inspire 101 million people to live their dream lives, to write down 3 dreams and then go and chase them. So that's my biggest dream now, and one that I actually do not know how I'm going to achieve it, but I am working on it.
Yeah, beautiful. What are some others that you've currently got in place?
I wanted to become a yoga teacher. I practice yoga, but I'm not a full-time yogi. So one of the things that I really think that will help me living a really calm life would be to really do more yoga. And I thought if I become a yoga teacher, I know that I have to put in the hours. So that's one thing. I want to have a brilliant speech at my son's and my daughter's 50th birthday, and they're 8 and 11, so it's a long time away. But that dream reminds me that I really want to make sure that I live the most healthy, holistic life that I possibly can. So I'm really well when they turn 50. So that's a good dream to have. Small dreams like having Sundays completely off. That's one thing that I do, but it's not perfect, as no life is. But having every Sunday, really, I think you're practicing that really well, a self-care Sunday where I have no bookings, nowhere to go, and it's just about me and just about what I want to do is one dream. One dream is to open in New York City. I always wanted to have a store in New York City and actually live there while I open the store. So that's another dream. One of my other dreams, which is also one that is really easy to relate to, is to move every single day. So being an all or nothing personality, sometimes I'm really good with my exercise, but sometimes when you travel and you might get a little cold, it's hard to do those things. So one of my dreams is to move every single day. And that's one thing that I'm working on this year, which is not perfect again, but it's another one. I want to do 2 health retreats a year. That's a dream. I can't fit that in at the moment, or I'm not choosing to fit that in because I have so much on, but doing 2 health retreats a year is a dream. I want to have a year off when I'm turning 50. So I'm 46 now. So that seems impossible. What am I going to do with the business and how is that all going to play out? But it's a dream to actually have a year off and do whatever I want. And when I do that year, I want to, do a lot of walks and hikes around the world and really spend a lot of time in nature. That's one thing that I absolutely find that I really think about my dream life when I spend time in nature.
One of my dreams, and I've never shared this before, is that I used to be a professional dancer.
Yes.
And I stopped professional dancing when I was 24. And it's still something that I absolutely love doing it. But I kind of do it now just around the house, and I'm being silly with my husband and my little boy. But Nick and I started ballroom and Latin dancing last year, and I fell in love. One of my dreams is I want to be on Dancing with the Stars. Like I would love to be on that show. And mainly because I only have just recently learned ballroom and Latin, and I want to challenge myself because each week they get a different style. So say it's waltz, and they've got that time to fully nail it and put on a performance. And they wear the pretty costumes and their hair and the makeup. Like, it's just like, yes, I love that so much. And even though I'm not a star, I just want to be on the show just so I can dance and learn and work with the professionals as well, because they are so incredible. I just would love to do that. And I was thinking about, I went on my walk this morning and I was, mentally preparing for our interview today. And I was thinking about my dreams and I was like, I've never shared that. Why have I never shared that? And there was a little bit of like vulnerability. And there was a little bit of like, what are they going to think if I publicly say that out loud? What are people going to think? And I was just like, no, I'm going to tell Kristina on the podcast that this is one of my big dreams, and I'm going to declare it. I don't even think the TV show is even on anymore, but I will make it happen one day. I'm going to be on that show.
Well, there is currently one in Sweden. So if you can't do it here in Australia, maybe you should do it in Sweden. I think it's a great dream. And, sharing dreams are so powerful. And when I do my talks and my workshops about dreaming, I always encourage people to share. And it's so, so powerful. First, the reason you said, like, to putting it out there and actually for yourself really declaring it, but also for the people who are listening today, they might know someone in that show, or they might know someone who knows someone. So to share your dreams with others is so powerful, because you never ever know if someone out there can help you. I did that actually in London, I think it was last year, when I did a workshop, and there was a lady she was a lawyer, I think, so she felt like a little bit vulnerable and saying, I actually want to do a children's book, illustrate and write a children's book. So she put it out there, and I could see she was really uncomfortable. And then opposite sat a publisher, and she said, why don't we have a coffee next week? Maybe I can help you. So it's so powerful to share your dreams for yourself, but also for others, and also for inspiring others. You're allowed to steal other people's dreams because it's your dream life. So whatever you feel inspired by.